Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have a super exciting video to share with you guys today. I'm going to simplify some math and show you guys how to make $1 million off real estate investing. I'm taking a fairly complex process and simplifying it down so it's super easy to understand. This video will show you how powerful real estate is over time. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme, but I promise you this method works. For those who don't know me, my name's Daniel Apke. I'm an online business owner, entrepreneur, and real estate investor. Please take a split second to subscribe to my channel and like this video to get all things real estate investing and online business. In this video, we're going to talk about becoming a millionaire through real estate investing. Now, before we get into math, let's talk about why real estate is so powerful. So there's something called the 4 wealth generators. These are 4 things that can make you a millionaire through real estate investing. And I got these through Brandon Turner over at Bigger Pockets. So if you haven't checked out Brandon Turner at Bigger Pockets before, make sure to go check his videos out. So the first wealth generator is cash flow. This is how much money you have in your pocket after the month, after all expenses are incurred. So you have your rental income, all your expenses, and then you have your cash flow after all of that is deducted out. Wealth generator number 2 is appreciation. Over time, real estate climbs and it appreciates in value. So a property that was worth $100,000 a year ago may be worth $120,000 now. Appreciation is a major factor for long-term wealth. Although you don't see that money until you technically sell it or refinance it, for long-term wealth, this is very crucial. So over time, prices will climb as long as you hold on to the property. This is why number 1 is so important, because the cash flow allows you to hold that property forever without draining your cash. So number 3 is loan pay down. Everyone knows you're paying principal and interest every month if you finance this property. So loan pay down is just going towards that principal. So maybe you started owing $200,000 at the beginning of your loan payments. Now you owe, 10 years later, you owe $120,000. You're about a third the way through. So over time, you pay this loan and mortgage down, which creates long-term equity as well. So every month you're paying off a little bit of the principal and a little bit of the interest. And over 10, 20, 30 years, it's paid off. Number 4 is tax benefits. This is huge. For this video's sake, we're not going to talk a lot about this, but this is huge. If you made $100,000 on your rental properties and your friend made $100,000 at some Fortune 500 W-2 job, guess who's going to keep more money in their pocket at the end of the day? Now let's get to the exciting part. How do we become a millionaire off real estate investing? All right, so now let's get into the math. Say I bought a property for $100,000, and I'm going to be scribbling on my whiteboard here. So I bought a property for $100,000 and we put down $20,000, say 20%. So we put down $20,000 and that leaves us with an $80,000 mortgage. Okay, so we bought a property for $100,000. We put down 20%, which is pretty typical for this. And we're left with $80,000 is what our 30-year fixed mortgage is. So we're going to put 30-year. So now let's say this property is bringing you in $250 cash flow. So say this property is bringing you $250 of cash flow a month, so that is $3,000 of cash flow a year. So that's $3,000 a year of cash flow that is bringing in. Like we said, cash flow is everything after your expenses. So it's bringing in $250 a month. That's $3,000 of cash flow a year. So boom, you made it. That's how you make $1 million off real estate investing. Just kidding. So from this math, it looks like you made $3,000 of income a year, right? But there's more to it. So let's get into that. So say your mortgage started at $80,000. You had that number 3 loan pay down that we talked about earlier. So now say you own after a year, you only owe $78,500, right? So we had $1,500 of loan pay down. I'll put LP for that. So now you're at $4,500, right? So you have $3,000 of cash flow a year, plus we paid down the loan from $80,000 to $78,500, and that gives you $1,500 of loan pay down, right? And then after that year goes by, say you bought the property for $100K, 1 year. So you own the property for 1 year, it was worth $100,000. That year goes by, that property is now worth $103,000. So now this $100,000 turned into $103,000, so that gave you $3,000 in what we talked about earlier, which is the appreciation. So that's $3,000 in appreciation that adds to your net worth in the property. So now this is now this $3,000 you have as well. So all of this right here, $3,000 plus $1,500, so that's $6,000, so that's $7,500 a year you made off this one tiny little property. Okay, so that's after 1 year you made $7,500. So now let's talk about compounding growth a little bit, and say 10 years go by, this is now worth $130,000, right? So now 10 years, 130,000. Sorry for my scribbling. After 10 years go by, this property is worth $130,000. So now you have $30,000 of appreciation. And then say your loan payment went from $130,000 now, but you only owe $60,000 after all the pay downs, right? So 20, it's going to be even more than that, but let's just say 60 for now. So now you have $70,000. So like I said, this is 30 and you owe 60. So that $100,000 10 years later went to $130,000, and now 10 years later, instead of owing the original $80,000, you owe $60,000. So that brings your equity up to $70,000, right? But there's even more to it. So now you have $70,000 of equity before your cash flow. So now let's add cash flow into it. You're getting $3,000 a year. Say that $3,000 times 10, now that's $30,000 you have after your cash flow. And then that gives you $100,000. So let me explain this again. We'll start from the beginning. So you had a $100,000 property. You put down 20% of the property, which is $20,000, which gives you an $80,000 loan or mortgage payment. That is in a 30-year fixed rate we have for this math purpose, and that's how it typically is as well. And the property gives you $250 of cash flow a month, meaning that that's after all your expenses and fees, which is equivalent to $3,000 a year. After that first year, that $80,000 that you owe to the bank for the mortgage turns into $78,500, which gives us $1,500 of a loan pay down. So that's $1,500 a loan pay down, and then you have $3,000 of appreciation, because we said after that first year, which is typically true in a market, it's 2 to 5% generally with appreciation. So that $100,000 turns into $103,000 that your property is worth now. So you have $3,000 of equity from appreciation, which gives you $7,500 of equity profit a year. And then that's after 1 year. So this exponentially grows the further you get into it as well. Keep that in mind. So then after 10 years, this $100,000 property is worth $130,000, and that $80,000 that you owed to the bank, now you only owe $60,000, right? So 130 minus 60 is $70,000 of equity you have there. That's the difference of what the property is worth to what you owe the bank for the mortgage. So you have $70,000 before cash flow, and then after 10 years, this is your cash flow here. We said it brings in $3,000 a year in profit, cash flow, which is $30,000 after 10 years. So after 10 years, you make $100,000 a year from this one tiny $100,000 property. So I know what you're thinking now, 10 years to make $100,000. Daniel, that's nothing. But what you have to understand is this is one tiny property. This is a $100,000 single family home most likely. This whole theory applies to any property, whether it's $1 million, $500,000, millions and millions of dollars. This whole theory applies. So if you keep repeating this and you do this and build up your equity through bigger properties or multiple properties, this all works the same. And as you get to year 10, year 15, year 20, this stuff exponentially grows and it even takes off further. And I'm telling you, it looks small from this, but if we did the math for $1 million property, it would probably get you to $1 million from there. So apply this to different properties and different things, and you'll get there very quickly, a lot quicker than you think. So let's talk about what concerns you're going to experience when you're thinking of real estate investing. The first one always is, how do I come up with this money and down payment? Usually at first, you use your own money, you save up from your job or whatever else it is, and you use your personal money for the down payment. But over time, you get different techniques. You can refinance different properties to pull it out. You can have different lenders for you that require no down payment. In my other video, I talked about FHA loans and house hacking. You can go through an FHA loan to put down very, very little amount of money, and I'll link that below as well if you want to hear how to buy a real estate property with very little money. Another method you can use is burring properties, which is just refinancing a property, buying it under market rent, refinance the property, and taking that refinance cash to buy other properties and leverage that property. So at first, start small, maybe get an FHA loan, and then after you get some experience, save up, buy a rental property, maybe refinance that property, pull out the cash and buy another property, and just keep repeating that. And that's how you hear of people really, really leveraging real estate to buy a lot of properties. Another method is you can use partners or funding partners for this. If you find the deal, you can get some sweat equity for finding it and putting a deal together. People will love that. People are always looking for properties. There's a ton of people with money looking for them. The key part is having a good deal. If you have a good deal and a good property and it makes sense, you'll be able to find funding for it. There's a ton of people out there with funding. There's a ton of banks out there who want to help. Another issue that may arise is how do I find good properties, especially in a market like today? So you have to find a way to analyze a property. I'll have another video on analyzing properties. So that comes with experience and time, and you find your own method usually. But you can get the help of real estate agents. You can get the help of other people who do it. Just really dig around, do some research, find out how to analyze rental properties. But you have to run the numbers and make sure everything makes sense. Another issue that you may face is how do you manage the properties? Eventually, you're going to have to get a property management company to manage all your properties. You don't want to be getting those phone calls at 1 a.m. because a pipe burst or something. You want a management company to handle all that stuff for you. You don't need to deal with any of the conflict that comes with it. So eventually, to build a portfolio, you're going to have to hire a management company. So another question I get is, what if the market takes a dip? This is a good thing for us. That means everything's on sale, number one. Number two, your property is cash flowing, which means, like we talked about earlier, you can hold that property forever. So just because it may be worth less right now if you sold it in today's market, that doesn't mean in 2-3 years it's going to be the same. Markets recover, things appreciate, and they balance out. Use that time, just keep collecting your cash flow, get through the hard times, and buy other properties because things are on sale, and that's a great opportunity for real estate investors. Please comment below with questions or comments or anything you want to discuss, and I'll make sure to get back with you. I hope this really simplifies things and sums it up for you. But that's all. See you guys next week.